opposition is that if the society actually really receives these kind of active or the good doings or these kind of situations, the premise is that they suddenly just lean down to all of these kind of like supporting these kind of suspects or these kind of things. However, we actually doubt this from the closing government, right? From my extension, I'll go on explaining and deepening the analysis of how the society actually does receive these kind of information, and rather why in our paradigm, like even if the juries might be like affected from these kind of societies, like the perspectives for these kind of things, we see that the perspectives conducted in our paradigm is much more superior than the ones that in the status quo. Then I'll go, but before that, I'll go on to several rebuttals. So firstly, I'll go on responding to the leader of opposition. Right? The first person actually told you that because of these kind of people feel like strong sympathy, they'll like suddenly surround the court or like surround these kind of like juries, like places or these kind of situations, right? We strongly doubt this situation. Like even if that actually happens, the police or these kind of like other characters are able to prevent these kind of situations. And moreover, even if like they never actually characterize like the whole society, so we never actually see why these citizens would suddenly just like go on surrounding these kind of like courts or surrounding these kind of like juries' houses, right? And first of all, and moreover, we say that like so if their like logic is true, the characters who feel like strong sympathy toward these kind of suspects are already doing it in the status quo, right? Like for example, they're like families, or for example, they're like relatives that strongly love the suspects or these kind of things already are in front of the court saying that these people are having good doings or these kind of situations. However, we say that these kind of so we never actually see that is some kind of harm, and moreover, these kind of good doings would rather be like good provided as good information in our paradigm, so we never actually see that as a harm. So going on to my clash, but before that, yes.
How does information about their life history and what have they done that is irrelevant to the case going to help the dialogue between what the crime and what happened and who is guilty?
So we actually see that was actually very nice to lead to my first point, right? We see that rather how these people would view these kind of like criminal cases would be rather like sophisticated in our paradigm. Like why is that? So going on to my first flash, how the society actually does receive these kind of information in under our paradigm. So we say so the opposition side actually told us that the society's characters would be like strongly biased and strongly biased in a way. However, we say that rather like this, they never actually told us why in the status quo these people are not first of all biased at all, right? What we say is that these people tend to only look at the consequences of these criminal actions, never the reasons why these crimes were actually are conducted, right? Why is that? This is because these kind of criminals, as much as the case is like very harmful or very violent or these kind of situations, when the media even though does report these kind of good doings in a neutral way, the society people actually have the impact of, okay, these people might have some kind of good doings, but however the huge impact of, like, for example, cutting down or like killing their own like father or killing their own like sisters or like these kind of situations is more like has a more like huge image and a huge like effect of like interest, right? For these kind of society members, the consequences and like the consequences or the violence or these kind of like images of the criminal case is the main image that actually remains for these societies, right? We say that this is rather harmful in the status quo paradigm. Why is that? This is because when the court is actually conducting their conducting their own their sentences, these sentences are not only conducted based on the consequence itself. Like for example, like mitigating like factors of like what kind of reasons or what kind of backgrounds that person actually had, or these kind of factors are also mitigating factors are also considered inside these kind of courts of making these kind of sentences, right? The problem that the society has the gap of these kind of like of these ideas of the court. Since the society only looks at the consequences, since the society only looks at these consequences and like consider only the consequences, when they actually hear the true sentences that the court actually conducted, they feel that okay, that sentence is something like very unjustifiable, or like why is that sentence like something that is like proportionate, or these kind of questions are rather like conducted in the status quo pardon, right? We say that rather in our pardon, these kind of judges would be rather cannot conduct their own situations. Okay, from the closing.
Like.
Sorry.
Okay, if jury is so biased in the status quo, how often in your model, how they are going to be suddenly so rational?
No, we're not saying that the juries are biased in the status, but we're saying that they are like rather like being in a situation that it's hard for them to like provide the true sentence that they want to, right? In our part, and rather because of the society would like focus on the reasons, not the consequences, right? Why is that? This is because after plan, because of they actively report these kind of good doings, like it's not just saying that they are like they have some kind of like good personalities, but rather like because of the media would give more portrait like reasons, or more give like interest for the people to rather look at these kind of good doings, the people will have a question of saying, okay, even though that person has a very good contribution or very good character, why did that person actually conduct that like consequences, right? We say that because of in our part, and these like information would be provided, the society as a whole would like focus on the reasons of why these kind of like consequences actually happen. In our part, and rather because of the people would have the same kind of perspective, at least for like the court, our part is much more superior. So for all these reasons, we strongly propose.
I thank the previous speaker for her remarks. I said that upon the member of opposition to extend their case for 7 minutes in here.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, people have the bias, and people see what they want to see, and they don't listen to what they want. It is against the belief. In this situation, their proposal is rather counterproductive because they actively promote the media to making the positive effect of the positive aspect of the suspect, but the people who are not suspect, other people will more exposed of the bias from the media, and this just distort the idea of the believing and the fair of the society. So we are happy to oppose this motion. Two things in my speech. First of all, explaining real context by analyzing why this media report about the suspect, and secondly, why this proposal is rather counterproductive and more promote about the having made people the more biased. Or rather, my first argument is direct engagement entirely government based. So let's go to my first argument. What's the real context by analyzing why media report about the suspect? Opening document talk about that media only report about the suspect of the negative point, but it is not true, because media report is, as they said, media is a profit seeker. So if the media report that many majority of people see it, media report, happy to report it, it means that if the majority of the people want to see the positive aspect of the suspect, media happy to report the positive suspect. For example, that case of the Ferguson, that the white police shoot the black teenagers, at that time, majority of the white people, society, want to see that the white police have the legitimate reason to shooting. So at that time, what the media done is, the media report the many good aspects of the Ferguson, because the media, if they do the positive report the positive aspect, majority of people can see and media can get the profit. So we believe that, for another example is that Asuka, he do the drug, but many majority of people think that respect the Asuka. So at that time, what the media done is that they are really miserable background of the Asuka, that this is a positive aspect, right? And we believe that because the reason why media report about these suspect thing is they can get the profit, as they said, but it is not always a negative point, but a positive point. And we believe that if the media, how do you say? So what as they illustrating is in the status quo is not true. So their argument is really vague. And moreover, the reason why media report about the things of the aspect to get profit is people already have the bias, right? In the Ferguson, in America, white people have the bias that the white people should be respected and black people should not be respected. And whether media report negative aspect or the positive aspect is not the matter, because people already have the bias. And to counter this, the counter aspect reporting is not productive, but counterproductive. I'm going to talk about it in my second point. This is a direct engagement to the government case. Why this proposal is counterproductive? As opening government said that it is made confusing. We believe more than analysis about it. Important thing in the jury system is the relevant information. But if the taking proposal, we force the media to report the positive aspect of the suspect, media have to do it. It means that even though there's not a real fact, there's a fixed fact, media happy to do the rumor about if it is relevant to the jury, it is relevant to the suspect. In this moment, if there are many positive aspects of the suspect, even though the suspect is bad people, or many people will have the bias of this suspect as a negative, this moment, majority of people who see the media's report don't accept these biases because they already have the biases and they want to see what they want to see, and they don't want to see that which is against their belief. In this moment, to counter this, media have to making a rumor or making irrelevant things, and which is directly distorting jury system, the cultural things, and this make the more people do more biases and don't think about the fact, but think about just the really shallow thing, which is irrelevant of what the fact of what suspect conduct. This is problematic. Then why this is really problematic is the bias. People should already have the bias. It is not whether media have a report or not. But this creates the proposal, creates a more accelerated bias of the people who have. Why is that? For example, that the racial bias or the sexist bias, people want to in the case of the Ferguson, the people want to don't want to know about the teenager is innocent. But at that time, many media have to know. People don't want to know that the black teenager is innocent and white police are innocent, just an accidental case. But in this time, media actively report about these kind of things, and this time, other people who don't want to accept this positive report to counter this, more and more negative reports to do this, and this is just like the competing propaganda. This is not a fact, totally irrelevant, and this creates more bias between the black people and the white people. Think that the white people are bad or the black people are bad. This creates more bias in the society because they don't want to accept the they are against belief. We believe that to counter this bias, we believe the positive or the opposite report is not effective, but just moderating the report or the mitigating the negative or the one-side report is the very effective thing. So what we told you today is the context is at firstly wrong, and even if it is wrong, media is not just the one-sided people. They are the profit seeker, and their proposal is rather counterproductive and creating a bias and make society more discriminating society. So we're happy to oppose. Thank you.
Remarks. Next, I'd like to call upon the government to sum the speech for the second hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and hello, ladies and gentlemen. When we think about in the suspect, what is the most important? My partner already told you. Uniquely in the suspect, when we think about the suspect and when we think about criminal justice system, to decide that based on the law is very important. Without such kind of bias, the suspect is very bad. Without such kind of bias, we should decide the sentence based on the law. But please look at in the today's real context, right? Because many people tend to think that suspect is always bad because society, of course, police also wants to finish their research because quick surveillance to get quick surveillance is important for the police and so forth. In this context, if uniquely in the suspect is in reality the suspect is the same with us ordinary people, but society or majority people think these kind of people is different to us because they are very bad and so forth. But in this context, the jury or that also cannot judge very truly, right? Because they have to think about society reaction and so forth, right? So in order to achieve ideal criminal justice system, our paradigm is very much better, and this is my personal conclusion. So we are very proud to propose the motion from government. I have two things to talk about. Firstly, what is the ideal situation when we think about suspect? And secondly, which paradigm is better? Which paradigm can make better discourse about suspect in the practically? But before the several discussions to our closing. Firstly, he told you, for example, in white people cases, they already get protection discourse. So after plan, these people have to be more protected. So this is very problematic and so forth. But in the past, we believe this is in such kind of target is not different in today's not affected by this motion, right? Because it already they have the protected. Even though after plan, to some extent they have focused on the good aspect. What is the difference in the status quo and after plan, right? We cannot see any differentiation from status quo after plan. So their argument is not accurate. Because my already contextualized uniquely for us weak stance of suspect. That means majority people tend to think this suspect is very bad. Such kind of people is very weak. This less voice, they cannot voice up, and even though they voice up, we are not so. We are innocent, but majority people never see these kind of people's good aspects because they want to decide these people is very bad. So uniquely in our target, this motion is very effective. So their argument understand. Secondly, she told you
if the suspect have no very good way, we have to make false information and so forth. But this is very unrealistic, right? Because in our paradigm, also focus not only the achievement, but also the personality, the good personality, and so forth, right? No, thank you. So we believe that in our stance, what is the most important thing is that to make the citizen think that suspect is also same with us, is also normal people. So we have to think equally without such kind of bad bias. So our paradigm is good. Yes.
If there is prevalent bias within the audience and the media that now those black criminals are different people, how are you going to counter them by saying, oh, but they're nice too?
But we believe Serasco, even though such kind of black people, our paradigm is much better because Serasco is the only the part of such kind of discriminative information only. But in our paradigm, at least media can actively broadcast this kind of good aspect. In this case, there are many chances to see this suspect is also very good person and so on. So this is our paradigm is much better. Then move on our first point. What is the ideal situation? Firstly, opening and trying to say neutral stance of the media is important in criminal justice system without explaining what is a neutral in the first place. So maybe amount of time of broadcast to theory good aspect and first is important. No, thank you. But we think this kind of time of neutrality is not important, right? Because I already told you that how to react society people is very important. On this point, this kind of the fact of the fact of the criminal case is very bad aspect is very impressive for an ordinary person, right?
Yeah.
More than that, society people tend to think we have to catch the criminal very quickly. So right? In this case, there are no room to think about this suspect is guilty or not. No room to think. No, thank you. So in this case, the researcher judge is very wants to will be end more quickly without more deeply thinking. Right? Even though there are possibility to innocent this suspect, but the society people have no room to think about this because they have
precisely
no thank you. No thank you. Because society people tend to think we have to arrest criminal very early and so forth. This is very problematic. So we believe that I might already explain to you the ideal situation of the criminal justice system is the law we decide punishment based on the law, right? And why on this point our paradigm is much better is after taking this proposal, the society people tend to see the true reasons why these kind of people get these kind of amounts of the punishment, right? Because stethoscope, the only see the bad aspect of the suspect. So if these persons have a very good aspect or a good reason to commit a crime, the society people tend to think why this is so right and so forth. But in our paradigm, the people think because this kind of criminal also have very good reason, so this kind of punishment is proper. So this kind of society norm is very more ideal situation in our paradigm. So we are very proud to propose.
I thank the previous speaker for their remarks. Next, I'd like to call upon the opposition whip to close the debate within 7 minutes here.
The case of Ferguson, Missouri, and other subsequent attacks by white police against black criminals have proved one thing, that there is racial and sex bias throughout the country of the United States, and how the media is complicitly fanning those flames by providing irrelevant information, just like what they talked about backgrounds, about their good deeds, what did that contribute to? More anger, more hatred against each other. Because, for the simple fact, right? 1 plus minus 1 is not 0 or plus 5. Like, simple as that, right? There is prevalent negative sentiment on both sides and negative bias in society. And the only way to counter this is not by providing random and irrelevant facts, but we believe that to have a proper discourse, we need to moderate those kind of excessive positive or excessive negative information and to have factual conversation, and we think that is what we propose in as closing opposition. 3 things that we're talking about. First, let's go back to the context, which they have completely failed to address. Second, about what will happen in a criminal case in jury trials. And third, about impact to society. Let's go on one by one. First, about context of this debate, because they seem to be stuck in this 1 plus minus 1 mentality that, you know, because there's negative information out there, we need to counter that with positive information. And somehow, so opening government is, that becomes 0. Like, there's neutral and therefore that's very nice. First of all, we don't see why that is like good at all. Like, why is that like a neutral position of the media such a good thing in the first place? We believe that if there's clear evidence that this person is a very bad person and have done bad things, there is no reason why the media should be forced to come up with random facts about these people to just make them look positive, right? There's no value in creating false and propaganda-ish like information if that's not even close to the relevant information on the fact. So we don't understand this like 1 plus minus 1, 0 is a nice situation in the first place. Then we go to the closing opposition, the closing government. They say 1 plus minus 1 is plus 5. Like, somehow like these people will become more positively influenced and therefore these people will have nice impression about the suspect, which is total bollocks, right? Like, there is no reason, if as we have talked to you about, and even they themselves have talked about, right? They themselves said audience are biased against suspects. They want to hear about things that are negative about the suspects, so they're going to cater to the information that's already prevalent in the media, which might be negative aspect to black criminals. Then they're going to believe those black criminals are bad information, like these people didn't go to school, even if it was irrelevant to the case, they're going to believe that. And even if you say, oh, but this black person was a very nice person, that's not going to change our fundamental belief that black teenagers are criminals. So we believe that this, like, they have not explained at all how they're going to counter this bias by no more fluffy, irrelevant information. And we believe that's why CO fails and OG fails in its entirety. And we've told you where this takes place. This policy takes place in a situation where there are positive and negative side news, like propaganda news throughout the media. Why? Because that sells news. If there is, as they said, you know, there are black criminals and people that watch news want to see those people look bad and believe that those people are criminals, then they're going to show those information regardless of this policy. And if they think that the white person that committed rape was actually, you know, it's not really was his fault, maybe the woman was asking for it, then they're going to give positive information about the suspect, the rapist. Like, that information occurs on both sides, and we think both biases are a terrible, terrible thing for society because it only inflames the hatred, inflames the bias that they are trying to stop. So that brings me nicely, to issue of criminal cases, because we think that this is like a totally problematic information, right? Because they say somehow that that's going to, first they say it's going to positively influence the case by allowing look at the suspect in a more positive light. First of all, why is irrelevant information supposed to influence the case in the first place? If that information is about like backgrounds and how these are model citizens, maybe model citizens commit crime. Like, that's irrelevant, right? Maybe those people that, like, you know, are going to community service, pay taxes, still commits murder. Like, how does that, like, community service does in any way relevant to the case? We think that that's a bad information. If there is irrelevant information, then it shouldn't be even considered. And if it shouldn't be considered, then it shouldn't be on the news in the first place. That could even possibly tiny influence the jury at all. Yes?
So firstly, the context that you've been talking about is unrealistic, right? We don't actually see every people in like United States having these kind of strong discriminations towards each other. Like, these kind of demos are happening towards these kind of like things, even though white people are joining these kind of like these demos, right? Why do you still think that is a huge like true context?
Like, again, they are still stuck in this, like, there's a there's a neutral ground that's being created by like propaganda from both sides. We're against propaganda from both sides. We think that there shouldn't be like riots on the streets from either side because that only corrupts the information. So that brings me nicely into impact to society because they have never said how this actually will connect to people actually being sympathetic to the suspect or being sympathetic to black teenagers who commit crime or may not have committed crime. They have no linkage, right? All they have is this simple arithmetic answer, which is 1 plus minus 1. And we believe like that's not what happens, right? What happens is that negative information fuels more negative information, like propaganda fuels more propaganda. Because on the one hand, there's people that are saying black teenagers are criminals. On the other hand, you have to say, but black criminals are actually, it's not their fault, it's because of the society, it's because they're poor, right? Like both sides are going to believe in their own little world that the blacks are innocent or blacks are guilty, and there will be no proper discourse between those people. Furthermore, we know that this media, it even worsens it because it caters to the biases. It tries to reinforce and enhance the bias so that the people can sell more news. And we believe that if this kind of information is enhanced, then it will even worsen what happened in Ferguson. It will keep people stuck in their own little world and say it is in the racial divide, and that's what we provide in CG, right? We provided proper context and also like a racial aspect and sexist biases that will be enhanced by this policy. We believe in a policy that brings more neutral actors, bringing more neutral information, like facts about the case, right? Not irrelevant things. We think that is a positive to discourse, and propaganda is never a good discourse, therefore we oppose.
I thank the previous speaker for his remarks. All speeches are over. Thank you for your cooperation. Please wait outside until we